Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Into the Badlands, Monkey Leaps Through Mist. And this was more of a kind of setup episode. We didn't get as much action in this one as usual, but we did get a pretty cool fight scene towards the end. And it kind of like flitted through a couple different storylines so that it kind of was setting up where things are going to be going. So, we got to see Jade in the beginning, dealing with the death of Ryder and becoming the new Baron of his territory. And seeing her take the oath and kind of finding out what like these pillars are for like the Foundation Treaty and everything of like peace through force and justice without mercy, kind of like a very Sith kind of ruling of you gain this power and you have to use it in order to keep control and to keep order. Very interesting kind of like concept to see it, seeing her take like a blood oath and everything with the sword and everybody kneeling before her. So this is a pretty big development for her character coming forward like that, and it'll be interesting to see how she deals with this and where she's going to be headed. So, in regards to that as well, we then see that she calls upon Lydia to give her the news that Quinn is alive and killed Ryder. So we see her dealing with the death of her son and explaining to Jade that she was only ever able to have one child because his birth was so difficult. And of course, Jade is like, we gotta go stop Quinn. And of course, she gives the information that she knows where the bunker is that he should be hiding at and asks that she's the one that kills him. So that sets off into motion her going to Quinn's bunker and trying to get in with her forces where it blows out and shakes the complex, and that's kind of where that portion of the story ends. And we also get to see Quinn and Vale and all that kind of stuff, and also incidentally Ryder, but that's because as we're going through and they're going back to their base after having succeeded and also failed. They killed Ryder, got revenge, getting more kind of closer to getting their territory back. But all the rest of the barons have gone to ground. And as they're getting back, Quinn keeps seeing Ryder and is talking to him, and he's coming to the realization that he understands that he's still sick, still has the headaches, still probably has the tumor, and seeing him talk to Ryder about this, and Ryder being like, you've always been betrayed by women, you always screw up this way, she's gonna screw you over. You can't have anything good. And seeing him argue with himself on this and trying to keep his sanity is a new kind of facet of Quinn that we haven't seen before. Him losing his grip. Because granted, the most stuff that we've seen with Quinn, we believe that he is crazy. But it's almost like he's been acting in his persona and everything and doing what he needs to do. And this is almost like him grappling with all of the different things that he's had to do, such as killing his son and the repercussions of that with also the tumor that he's got in his head. While we're looking at that, we see that Vale is being interrogated by Quinn's second in command, being like, why was Egger's head smashed in? And of course she goes that he tried to force himself on her, and the dude's like, that's not how he played. You might be pretty, but you don't have anything he wants to play with. And it's like, oh. And he's like, the only reason you're alive is to make sure that Quinn gets better. And he pulls out the x-ray that shows the tumor and everything. And, of course, we'd seen that Ryder was telling Quinn to pretty much hold Henry hostage to get the truth from Vale. And, of course, they get into that scenario where Vale tries to find Henry and sees him playing with a dagger near Henry, and him trying to get the truth out of her, and her being like, I am happy here. You have changed. You have helped us, and wanting to be a family. We don't know how truthful Vale is, but she's at least going to believe this herself in order to make sure that her and her baby are safe. And we see that Quinn believes her on it as well, gives up the baby, and kind of goes back to doing his own stuff. And then once we get to the point where it intersects with Lydia's arc, with the explosions and everything that like take out her forces and have her knocked out, we see that Quinn's like, what the hell's going on? My traps were triggered and everything. Somebody's come here to kill us. And in the confusion, we see that Vale and Henry have escaped. We don't know exactly where they're going to be able to get to, but it would be interesting if she was able to hook up with Jade, who now has the full forces of her barony behind her to see if they might get together. So another part that we get to see in here is MK's. Now, this was my only kind of quibble with MK's story because we left him off fighting his inner self. We start off this episode seeing him training and doing all this kind of stuff, and it doesn't really flow into it that well. It's like kind of a disconnect. It's like, what's going on here? Why is he okay and not being kind of screwed over by the master or whatnot, kind of berated? But he's just training and everything. And then, of course, they're called back inside. And, of course, the abbot that's following him around doesn't see him. And we see that MK has run away. And it's like, okay, as it's going on, I'm almost thinking that MK was able to wrestle control from his darker self. Otherwise, he wouldn't have probably left as he did. And we see him just kind of going. We don't see him talking to anyone or talking to himself. We see him find this tree where all these people are hanging and find someone who's got clothes that look like they will fit him, puts them on and kind of buries the kid and keeps going on. So we don't get much movement from NK other than he has left the monastery and will probably be chased after by the abbots. So we'll have to kind of see where that goes and if he might somehow intersect with Vale or Sunny or however that's going to be going. Another big one that we get into is the widow's health situation and her talking to Tilda and Waldo and actually praising Tilda because if Tilda hadn't been there, she would have died. And really thanking her for understanding as being a regent, you sometimes have to listen to your inner voice and your guts to go with that. And then her talking with Waldo being like, I should have just went with my guts. I went with the promises that she said and it didn't work. And of course, Waldo is advising her to align herself with the other barons or die. Take out Quinn and gain their favor and they will probably not try and kill you. And of course, she's thinking it over and instead decides to align herself with Quinn to take out the rest of the barons. And it's like, that's an interesting way to go about that. But it makes kind of the most tactful sense for the widow at this point. Granted, she will probably try and betray Quinn at whatever chance she can get. But since she is also a hunted person by the barons because they were going to execute her there, it makes the most logical and tactical sense to go against the other barons and to get Quinn on her side because he can strike from anywhere because they don't know his base of operations. She aligns herself with him. She has a whole different kind of tactical advantage to be able to root out the other barons. He has had most experience with dealing with these barons and might be able to help her tactically take them on. So that was a kind of interesting thing. I thought that she might have aligned herself with Jade to take on Quinn. But that could possibly be within the cards because we don't know how long Quinn's going to stay alive. And of course she doesn't know about Quinn's cancer and how crazy he now has become. More crazy than usual. So that delves into a nice kind of cool storyline that we'll see. And the big one that we got was with Sunny and Bajie meeting Nas the Commandant, the leader of the mechs who had actually sold Sunny to the miners. So they're going through kind of figuring out what's going on. They present Silver Moon's blade and he's like, wow, this is cool. Calling it obsidian steel and everything and being like, alright, yeah. Just sit down with us. This will definitely get you your passage into the Badlands. So they're having a whole meal and everything and he offers his blaze to them and we get more insight into him. And he's not just a trash dealer. He deals with people and the doll aspect with using women. And we see that he's like, well, this girl's almost going to be ready. And of course, Sunny looks pretty pissed off at this. And of course, the girl comes to talk to him, be like, oh, okay, well, my mom will be in shortly. And he's like, that's okay, your mom doesn't have to keep you company, that's alright. He's like, huh, you're kind of different. Usually men don't act the way you do. And of course, her mom tries to convince Sunny to kill the Commandant, which leads to a pretty good confrontation because Bajie's comfort lady goes and tattles on the little girl's mother, and he cuts up her face and stabs her and everything, and Sunny is not having any of this because he offers to take the mother and the daughter because the sword is more than enough. He's like, nah, you can have her after I'm done with her in 6 months. And that, of course, doesn't fly well with Sonny. So he goes into his awesome stance and starts whooping ass. Now, my kill of this episode was where he used the hubcap to pretty much take out a dude's head and kill him. It was, like, amazingly well done. This action scene was another great addition to the series because you know what's going on. Seeing him go through all the different junk and use all different kind of weapons to take out the people. And of course we see that the Commandant has the little girl and everything, and he's got the sword at her and he's getting ready to kill her. We see Bajie is able to take this bat, knocks him on the head, takes the keys, gets the little girl, and they get Portia, get her in the car and everything, and then Bajie, of course, throws the sword to Sonny, and then using that for full effect, going through the rest of the fight scene as they get to the car and get out and try and continue their trek into the Badlands. So that was a really cool way to end the episode with a really good fight scene. And I'm glad that we kind of reached a kind of lull episode to kind of set up for the war that's going to begin. So that way we can get pretty much all episodes devoted to, like, a full episode devoted to, like, kick-ass action scenes that are going to be dealt with probably with, like, the Widow and Quinn going after a couple barons or whatnot, or Sonny fighting his way to get the veil throughout this whole thing. So it introduces some interesting possibilities, and it'll be cool to see how this all pans out. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.